For years, they sold the world a simple story. Two best friends. One garage. Endless horsepower. Heavy D and Diesel Dave looked like the perfect team, turning impossible truck builds into one of television's biggest automotive success stories. They joked together, celebrated together, and built an empire that millions of fans wanted to be part of. But what viewers never saw was that the real pressure was not coming from broken engines or impossible deadlines. It was building quietly behind the cameras. Every season brought bigger expectations. Every viral video raised the stakes. And every success pushed their friendship into territory neither of them had prepared for. Then something changed. The videos together became less frequent. Their careers began moving in different directions. Fans started asking the same question over and over. Had the friendship fallen apart? Some blamed money. Others pointed to lawsuits. Some even claimed Heavy D secretly hated Diesel Dave. For years, those rumors continued growing. But when Heavy D finally began reflecting on what really happened behind the scenes, a far more complicated story emerged. One that had almost nothing to do with what people believed. Long before television contracts, millions of subscribers, and sold-out merchandise, there were simply two men obsessed with building machines that most people considered impossible. Dave Sparks, who would eventually become known worldwide as Heavy D, had always viewed machinery as more than transportation. Every engine was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Every mechanical failure was an opportunity to improve something. Around the same time, Dave Kiley, better known as Diesel Dave, shared that exact obsession. When the two met in Utah, the connection felt immediate. Conversations that began with diesel engines quickly turned into late nights discussing fabrication, horsepower, suspension systems, and ideas that sounded completely unrealistic to everyone else. Neither man was thinking about fame. Their first workshop was small, crowded, and constantly running out of money. There were no television cameras documenting every build. No production crews. No sponsors writing checks. If something broke, they fixed it themselves. If they needed a specialized part they could not afford, they fabricated one. Every project involved risk because failure meant losing time they could barely spare. Yet those difficult years created something that money cannot easily buy. Trust. They learned how each other worked under pressure. One often pushed for bigger ideas. The other focused on making those ideas practical. That balance became the foundation of everything that followed. Then the internet changed the rules. At first, uploading videos online seemed almost pointless. The recordings were rough, unedited, and made with no expectation of becoming popular. But viewers noticed something different. Unlike traditional automotive shows, these videos felt real. Mistakes stayed in the final edit. Engines failed. Welds cracked. Builds did not always go according to plan. Instead of hurting the channel, those moments made audiences trust them even more. Subscribers multiplied faster than anyone expected. One viral video led to another. Sponsors began reaching out. Their small garage suddenly found itself attracting attention from across the country. The real turning point came when television executives recognized that audiences were no longer interested in scripted mechanics pretending to build trucks. Heavy D and Diesel Dave already had what producers wanted: authentic chemistry. Their personalities felt natural because their friendship was genuine. When Diesel Brothers premiered, viewers immediately connected with the energy they brought to every episode. The outrageous truck builds grabbed attention, but the friendship kept people watching. It looked effortless. What fans never realized was how quickly success changes the rules. A garage can operate on passion. A television series cannot. Within only a few years, their responsibilities multiplied. There were production schedules, advertising agreements, sponsorship obligations, merchandise launches, employee payrolls, licensing deals, public appearances, and constant pressure to outperform the previous season. Suddenly, Every truck build carried financial consequences. Every delayed project affected dozens of people. Every creative decision had business implications. The cameras still captured laughter, jokes, and outrageous experiments. But behind those scenes, another reality was emerging. Success was becoming its own kind of pressure. Heavy D has often spoken about enjoying challenges that most people would avoid. As the company expanded, his interests expanded with it. He became fascinated by enormous recovery projects, military vehicles, construction equipment, aircraft restoration, and engineering challenges that stretched far beyond diesel trucks. He was no longer thinking only about what could happen inside one garage. He was imagining projects on a completely different scale. Diesel Dave, however, remained deeply connected to the diesel performance community that had supported them from the very beginning. Trucks were not simply a stepping stone. They were the identity that had built the brand. Neither approach was wrong. But for the first time, their visions for the future were no longer perfectly aligned. First, nobody noticed. The television series continued presenting the partnership audiences loved. Episodes still featured outrageous builds, friendly competition, and the same humor fans had come to expect. Yet subtle changes were already happening. Heavy D increasingly appeared in projects outside the traditional Diesel Brothers format. His online content became broader, featuring heavy equipment, survival challenges, aviation, and massive engineering recoveries. Diesel Dave remained much closer to the original formula that had made them famous. To casual viewers, those changes seemed insignificant. To people paying close attention, they looked like the beginning of something much larger. Then another problem arrived, one that neither man could simply weld, fabricate, or engineer their way out of. Legal scrutiny. As Diesel Brothers grew, regulators began paying closer attention to certain diesel modifications featured publicly by the company. Environmental organizations argued that some modifications involving emission systems violated federal law. What truck enthusiasts viewed as performance culture, regulators viewed through the lens of emissions compliance. The difference was enormous. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. Instead of discussing horsepower, headlines focused on lawsuits. Instead of celebrating new builds, interviews revolved around court proceedings. Instead of talking about creative projects, the business found itself answering legal questions. For viewers, it seemed like controversy had appeared overnight. For the people living it, the pressure was relentless. Court cases demanded time, money, and constant attention. Lawyers became just as important as mechanics. Every public statement required careful consideration. Every business decision carried legal consequences. The carefree atmosphere that had built Diesel Brothers slowly gave way to meetings filled with attorneys, paperwork, compliance discussions, and financial planning. And under that kind of pressure, even the strongest partnerships begin to change. But according to people close to the story, the lawsuits alone were never the real reason fans noticed distance between Heavy D and Diesel Dave. The legal battles exposed something that had already been developing for years. Two ambitious builders were slowly becoming two very different leaders. The cracks became harder to ignore as the business grew. What had started as two friends experimenting with diesel trucks was now a large company with employees, television obligations, sponsorships, merchandise, and millions of followers expecting bigger projects every season. Success created opportunities, but it also created pressure. Every decision carried financial consequences. Every disagreement suddenly mattered. Fans still saw laughter on camera, but behind every episode were deadlines, contracts, and responsibilities that the audience never witnessed. As the spotlight became brighter, maintaining the partnership became more difficult than building the trucks themselves. One of the biggest turning points came through legal battles that had nothing to do with entertainment. The Diesel Brothers brand faced years of litigation involving emissions-related modifications shown on television and online. Environmental organizations argued that certain modifications violated federal emissions laws, while the company challenged many of those claims throughout lengthy court proceedings. Whatever side people believed, one fact remained undeniable. The lawsuits demanded enormous amounts of time, money, and attention. Instead of focusing only on creativity, leadership suddenly had to spend countless hours with attorneys, court filings, compliance issues, and business strategy. Financial pressure followed close behind. Legal expenses continued to grow while public scrutiny intensified. Every new headline fueled more speculation online. Every court development created another wave of discussion among fans. The business could no longer operate as if it were simply a television show. Every public statement had legal implications. Every appearance was analyzed. That kind of environment changes people. It changes priorities. And sometimes it changes friendships. Then something else quietly began happening. Viewers noticed that Heavy D and Diesel Dave were appearing together less frequently than before. Group content became more common than one-on-one projects. Episodes increasingly highlighted the broader team instead of centering on the original partnership. Social media collaborations slowed. Interviews featured different combinations of personalities. None of this confirmed a personal conflict, but longtime fans immediately recognized the difference. The chemistry that had once defined the brand no longer felt exactly the same. Rumors spread rapidly across YouTube, Reddit, and automotive forums. Some claimed there had been a massive argument behind closed doors. Others insisted one partner wanted television while the other wanted business. A few even suggested ownership disputes or financial betrayal. Yet despite thousands of comments and videos, very little concrete evidence ever surfaced. Much of the speculation remained exactly that, speculation. Heavy D eventually addressed the growing rumors in interviews and public discussions, but his message surprised many people. Instead of attacking Diesel Dave, he described how success naturally changes relationships. Businesses evolve. People develop different goals. Responsibilities shift. According to Heavy D, many assumptions made by viewers simply did not match reality. The internet had filled empty spaces with dramatic stories because silence often invites imagination. That did not mean everything stayed exactly as it once was. Heavy D gradually expanded far beyond diesel trucks. His interests grew into heavy machinery, construction equipment, military vehicles, aircraft recovery, rescue operations, and large-scale engineering projects. His YouTube channel evolved into something much bigger than automotive entertainment. Massive excavators replaced lifted pickups. Historic military machines appeared alongside custom builds. The audience expanded from truck enthusiasts to millions fascinated by engineering on a much larger scale. Diesel Dave, meanwhile, remained closely connected to the diesel performance world that had built the original audience. His passion for custom trucks, modifications, and the community surrounding diesel culture continued to shape his work. Their careers were no longer moving in identical directions. Instead of one shared road, there were now two parallel paths built on different ambitions. That difference alone was enough to make collaborations less frequent. Many partnerships experience the same transition. Two people can remain respectful while pursuing different visions. To outside observers, distance often looks like hostility because audiences expect successful partnerships to remain frozen forever. Real life rarely works that way. Businesses change. Creative interests evolve. Priorities shift. The public only sees the finished result, never the countless conversations that lead there. Even so, fans continued searching for evidence of hidden conflict. Every missing appearance became another theory. Every separate interview became another headline. Every individual project inspired fresh speculation that the friendship had completely collapsed. Social media algorithms rewarded dramatic narratives because controversy generated more clicks than ordinary explanations. A simple business evolution was repeatedly presented as a bitter personal war. Heavy D later reflected on how strange it felt watching complete strangers confidently describe private conversations that had never happened. He acknowledged that disagreements naturally occur in any long-term partnership, but he also emphasized that the internet often exaggerates normal business realities into sensational stories. Millions of people had become emotionally invested in the Diesel Brothers brand, making every change feel far bigger than it actually was. Looking back, perhaps the biggest misunderstanding was believing the brand and the friendship were exactly the same thing. Television creates powerful illusions. Viewers see 45 minutes each week and believe they understand years of real relationships. Editing compresses months into episodes. Producers highlight dramatic moments while ordinary conversations disappear forever. Fans become attached to versions of people created through storytelling, not necessarily to the complete reality behind the cameras. Heavy D and Diesel Dave built something that very few creators ever accomplish. They transformed a shared passion into an internationally recognized brand. Millions discovered Diesel Performance because of their work. Countless mechanics, fabricators, and young builders found inspiration through projects that once began inside a modest Utah garage. That legacy exists regardless of how their professional relationship changed over time. Today, both continue following separate paths while carrying different parts of that original success forward. Heavy D has expanded into ambitious engineering adventures that attract audiences far beyond automotive enthusiasts. Diesel Dave remains connected to the diesel community that helped launch the phenomenon. Their futures no longer look identical, but their shared history cannot be erased. So, did Heavy D truly utterly hate Diesel Dave? The available public evidence does not support such a conclusion. What it does show is something more realistic and perhaps more relatable. Two longtime business partners whose careers gradually evolved in different directions under extraordinary public pressure. Legal challenges, growing responsibilities, creative differences, and changing priorities transformed a partnership that millions had watched from the very beginning. For fans hoping for one dramatic moment that explains everything, the truth may actually be far less sensational. Sometimes the biggest stories are not about one explosive argument. Sometimes they are about two people slowly becoming different versions of themselves while the entire world keeps expecting them to remain exactly the same forever.